So today I wanted to set up a call to talk about lying low from the basics because I think there are many new people. Thanks Vijay Lakshmi for suggesting the race class and lying low. So appreciate that. But I think since many people have just come in to this discussion, I just wanted to start from the very beginning. And I have a few things I wanted to talk about today. One is what I call unlocking learning by lying low. So, what I mean by that is, and Bharti, I think this is a conversation we have had before that, when you even go for things like relationship development intervention, you have the enjoyment part. They want us to enjoy things. They are also talking a lot about connection. But in all my 20 years, the piece that I've really not had anybody talk about or do is calmness. And that has repeatedly come and, hit us because I feel like stress and anxiety is almost a way of life for ND learners because there are just so many different challenges. One may have difficulty in language or movement or, they have a myriad challenges, right? And so I think when they're coming into the learning situation, stress is quite possible and quite likely. And we don't address this in any systematic way. We just, you know, okay, if there are meltdowns or behaviors, then we'll deal with it, right? So for me, I think when we started with Ujjwal in 2022, that was I mean, I almost could immediately sense something different because when we went to the class, it was just such a very calming, that's the first word that struck me, and it still comes across. We've been in that class for like 2.5 years with Bharatanatyam for Anand. And Ujjwal Jagdish, I think his style is very, very, very calming. And just the way he engages is what I call lying low. And at that point, Anant was actually going through a lot of stress. And we really needed that lying low approach. So I just wanted to, open the discussion a little bit. What does lying low, mean to you? And then I'll take up a little bit more as to what are some of the ingredients. Because I think lying low is kind of the, core of this whole thing that we're trying to do. And it's the reason why I'm, supporting the race class. It's that lying low. That I've realized. It's not, if you ask me what is a single thing Anant has got from Ujjwal, it's that whole lying low experience more than anything else. So I think we need to talk a little bit more about that. Any thoughts that strike you? Because I know, Bharti, you've been in the class, and uh, Vijay Lakshmi, you've also been in the class. So just curious about your thoughts.
One will be like no pressure, no
No.
pressure. Like I've told you, like we come back from our center around that time when just the class is going to start. So earlier I would, insist that he participate,
Yeah.
even though he may be tired, but I would think, he since he likes chanting and all that, I would insist the video is on, insist he imitate. But now I've changed my approach because he engagement can look different. Engagement doesn't mean how we think, looking, eye contact, paying attention, imitation. What I've learned is engagement can just be sitting quietly and just listening.
Yes.
So Anand, my son Anand, he when I didn't put pressure, when I switched off the video, so we come back from the center and he's tired, he can relax. He'll just slouch on the sofa, but he will listen to everything. And there are times when he'll even follow, but there's no pressure.
Yes.
So he, in fact, Arunachala, the chant is so soothing that it actually relaxes us.
Yes.
And the one that is good is when he sees other children or when he sees Anant and all telling stories, he's more engrossed and interested because it appeals to his sense of rhythm, which is a slow sense of rhythm, not and
Yes.
it what I've noticed with Anand's stories is he doesn't put pressure. He's enjoying, he's relating, but he's not like waiting for you to respond,
Yes.
waiting for, he's not waiting for our response. So the rhythm appeals to, I've seen Chatur, Daksh also, when Anant is saying the story, they're immediately, listening and they're very thrilled because I think that rhythm, we can't do it, but it comes innately to them. So
Yeah.
Anand enjoys watching, Anand enjoys listening, and he may be somewhere, but his ears are, listening to that. So, which is why sometimes he'll even repeat the last line without even being asked to. So,
Yes.
what I meant was engagement can be in different forms,
That's
which
a
I
great
learned.
that's a
Yeah.
great point. We think engagement means, and if, for example, typically what will happen is if a story is told, next class you come and say, okay, what story did I tell you? What do you recall? Who were the characters? None of that. So when Anand started with Ujjwal, it was the same thing. He would go and so this is where the Bharatanatyam part helped because it was a Bharatanatyam class. The stories were repeated quite naturally because you have hastas or hand gestures. And so if you're doing for example, the Mayura Hasta, then that Mayura story automatically comes. So since the hastas are practiced, the movements are practiced, the stories were also practiced. And this was barely a month and a half after he had started with Ujjwal that he suddenly said, I want to narrate the White Peacock story on my birthday. So we were all very surprised as to, he had never shown any interest in narrating stories. And this just spontaneously came for him. And I think that's the essence of Lilo because you're not putting performance pressure and you are accepting different ways of engaging. I think they're able to access that learning in their own way. We really don't know how they learn. So, for example, sometimes Anant might be walking around and look like he's not engaged, but he's probably taking it all in. So, I think for neurodivergent learners, giving them that flexibility, not forcing them to engage and, giving them the opportunity to engage, inviting them to engage, but not putting pressure. So that is the first thing about lying low, which is reducing performance demands, allowing for engagement, and noticing. So, Bharti, you mentioned a few things you have noticed in terms of how Anand is engaging, what he's responding to. So I think that observation becomes very important because that's the same thing. That is how Anand has progressed such a lot because and that's where the family plays a role because Ujjwal is coming and teaching for 1 hour. He's not going to see what's developing as much as I will. So at home, if suddenly Anand is saying, I want to narrate a story, I'm the one to pick that up. So then I'll relay that to Ujjwal and saying, it looks like he wants to tell the story. And then once he gets that information, he's going to try and nudge that. So I think, it's more of a, you know, plant a seed, wait and watch to see what's sprouting, and then respond to that type of an approach. So that's how I see Lilo. And this is where the 5 Ps come in. The possibilities, that's the first thing, seeing possibilities. So when Anant was showing interest in storytelling, that was a possibility that we saw. Similarly, when we went to Ramanashramam and we sat in this hall and heard the chant, we saw a possibility. And as soon as we came home, in that particular case, it immediately was something that was at Anand's point of learning because he was really needing something which was soothing to his nervous system. And as soon as he had come out of the Ramanashramam hall, he had said, this stops the thoughts in my head. So we knew that this was right for him and we immediately started. But sometimes we don't know. So when Anand went to Ujjwal's class, he didn't actually know, and Ujjwal didn't know, and I didn't know what exactly Anant would connect to. So why do I suggest the race family immersion? Because I think, when we talk about theater arts for holistic development, we can say that, okay, use theater activities and then, that'll help in holistic development. But the problem is we don't always know which theater activities, how to design them, and so on. So I'll come back to one point that Anila, one of the parents, made, which I think was a very important point, and she made it during the session, if you were there, when we did the meetup. And the point she made was that RAISE is a curriculum. So Ramana Art Form Interventions for Self-Awareness and Excellence, it's a curriculum. It's been in schools for a long time. So they have an approach to teaching concepts, to teaching values, to teaching many things, and that has been developed for decades. So it's just easier to take an existing curriculum, and then once you see what's being done, you can then adapt. I mean, once you get the idea, you can even do wheels on the bus and you might make it work. But I think it's better to follow a structured curriculum. So I think that is the key point. RAISE is a structured curriculum. So one other reason I wanted to have this discussion with parents is about what should be in that curriculum for raised families. And I've raised this with some of you because for NDs, I think some of the movement challenges are there. And so I feel like teaching the movement vocabulary in a more systematic way. So I think the reason Anant has gained such a lot from Ujjwal is because he went in as a Bharatanatyam student. So nobody needs to become a Bharatanatyam performer. But the Bharatanatyam building blocks, like the adavas, you saw the first adava, it is just, tat adava, you just, tap your feet to a rhythm, right? But the beautiful thing about the way RMCL does it is they actually start including expressions and a little, nuggets of stories or values right there. So Anant has been learning Bharatanatyam for over 10 years, and usually that's not how they teach Adavas. When they teach Adavas, they're more focused on the technical skill, let's tap to the rhythm, right? But if you notice the way Ujjwal did the Tat Adava, it was like, let's think of the God's power and smile and all of that. So that has been very powerful for Anant. And now he's relating between how think of God's power and say Omkara here, and you hear it in the Arunachala Shiva, and he's making those connections. So the point is, there is a curriculum, but the second point is, what curriculum do we want for neurodivergent learners? So again, Vijay Lakshmi, also looking to you for inputs, and Bharti and everybody else. I feel that including the adavas and hastas, which are the hand gestures are powerful. So if you know that Anant is doing a series called Fun with Hastas, and his videos are being, shared on the Rasa web channel. He was invited to do a series of hastas. There are 52 hastas in Bharatanatyam. And what he does is each hasta he demonstrates with the hasta song. Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning has created a beautiful curriculum. They've created a short, songs for each hasta. And you saw the first one for the first Pataka hasta. Ujjwal had showed done the song and demonstrated it. Anant also, because he's doing his diploma in Bharatanatyam, so he's also learning the slokas, and he's also narrating a story. So he learns, for example, how you use a particular hasta, but he's sharing some pretty simple stories too. Like, for example, he shared one recently on Krishna steals the butter using Mrigashirsha hasta. And then if you see his videos, you'll see how, hastas can be used in storytelling. And I feel like if the hastas are done in family immersion, the parents can pick up. Just by watching Anand doing all these hastas for his Bharatanatyam curriculum, I'm not a dancer, but I know many hastas. And I know they come in very, very useful. So I think I can engage my grandsons well because I have this vocabulary of hastas. And so when I tell them stories, I'll be using more movement and I'll be using more gestures, and they find it more engaging. So the idea that I want to share is that we have the other race components, like we have the race movement activities like the tree song, bee song, all of those. But I think for this audience particularly, and I think it's good for anyone, but particularly for the ND audience, also to include a little bit of the Bharatanatyam basics. That is your Adavas, Hastas, and the third thing is Vedas. Some of you have attended the session where he did Pada Veda, where he taught the 5 movements of the feet. Now, those are all, fun ways to teach, the 5 movements. You stand on your toes, you stand on your heels. So there were 5 movements of the feet that he had done in one of the workshops. So Vedas, Adavas, and the Hastas, even if you learn a little bit, I think it gives them a more of a movement vocabulary, and they are beginning to use some of these movements with more precision. So for example, when we do the animal song, right? In the animal song, we have cow. But I know that by working with Anant, I know that we use Ardha Pataka to show the horn, right? So if I have that knowledge, now Ishan has got that. He knows that, this is how you do Ardha Pataka. And so he will say also, we only get scared of Bharatanatyam, but he's just 3 years old, and even at 2.5, he'll say Ardha Pataka. Let's make 9 o'clock at night. He's saying let's make Ardha Pataka. So they are not afraid. So what I feel is when you take something like the animal song or bee song, so bee, Ishan loved making Brahmara, and he was only 2.5. He had trouble making the Brahmara Hasta. So he'll keep asking me, how do I make it? Even this time when he came to India, he was asking Ujjwal how to make the bee Hasta. So and now my 1-year-old grandson is doing that too. So the moment he sees me on that, he'll do start doing this. Yeah, of course, he can't get the hasta that well, but he's still trying it. So I feel that a curriculum and these building blocks, I think, add to the lying low experience, because what you're doing is you're gently planting the seeds for, learning movement. But along with movement, Anila again had a good point. She talked about um, changing thinking patterns. And I think here we come to values. So, for example, the story that Anant told this time about Nondi and Nondi throwing his food, right? Now, there was an important lesson there about wasting food, right? That Ramana Tata didn't like people to waste food. So, that is part of the lying low, because, how do we learn to lie low? Part of it is motor, right? Because if our motor system is not supporting it and we are, you know, overactivated. So I think there is a big movement component to lying low. And it's there is a body experience when you're lying low, and Anand is beginning to express that now, muscles being relaxed, using a soft voice. There are many things that, at a body level will help you feel more lying low, right? And that is why he likes Ujjwal's dance class, because the movements are very soft. They're not that, very vigorous type movement. They're more softer movement. And then on top of it, you have this, the seeds for thinking. How do you think about a situation? So a lot of times, if you just approach things cognitively, that doesn't really work. Just telling them values in a very cognitive way, just read a book and think that they'll pick up the values. But I think once it's paired with movement and, engaging stories, and then you're planting these seeds, again, it goes back to demand. You're not really insisting that they follow any particular value. You're planting the seeds, right? Today, you're talking about not wasting food. Another day, you're talking about smiling brightly and, doing something. So every snippet, every little adavu, every little hasta is presented with some seed, some seed of how to approach life. And so that's the beauty of it. And so something is registering for them. So Bharti, one of the interesting outcomes is that now Anant is actually wanting to attend Gita chanting classes in our neighborhood. And it's pretty, it's pretty advanced. They actually very philosophically explain everything, right? It's not just chanting. They explain what it means, and and I think he's become ready for that because of 2 years of, presenting Ramana through, Natya. Because I think our children often have language challenges, attention challenges, movement challenges. So he's been given stories in a very engaging way, very non, in a situation where there are no demands being placed on him, and he's really picked up. I always used to use a lot of visual supports for him because he's very visual and he has trouble with auditory processing. From day one, Ujjwal only uses auditory, right? He doesn't use any visuals at all, right? And he's done remarkably well. And I think it's because of that imitation and repetition, because you're using the movement, right? So he's doing the hastas. For example, he's using the Mayura hasta and telling the peacock story. So he's doing it, he's repeating it, he's repeating it. One fine day, the story is coming from him. So that is really how he has learned. You were telling about creative storytelling, but the interesting thing is the repetition has led to the creativity, because it's, he's hearing, telling, hearing, telling, and, suddenly he's beginning to express it himself. And then over time, as you tell more and more stories, you start to, for example, when he's narrated some stories, he had this language about Ramana Tata loved all animals and animals loved him. So now those are two language boilerplate sentences he'll put in any story. It may not have been there in the original story, but he'll just put it in because he's been using it. So over time, you're actually expanding your repertoire. You're having more sentences and you're having more thoughts on how to present your stories. So I think, this lying low, to summarize, so lying low means presenting in a way that you're not putting demands. And the point that Bharati made, that, when Anant presents, he's enjoying it, right? He's not, and so this is, I think, where I see every therapy is, the person is coming in with the intent to fix you, right? And Anand is not trying to fix anyone, right? He's just coming in, he's having fun telling you the story. That's it. And so that exact same feeling I get in Ujjwal's class itself. That, he comes in, he's enjoying doing this lesson with Anand. And, every lesson he comes in, he enjoys it. And he presents it with a very calm demeanor. And he's not putting demands. So he's not coming in class number and say, what story did I tell you last time? No. So he's just coming in again, they're repeating and slowly expanding it. And so that's what it's going. And the reason I want to bring all this is it's very subtle, right? These days we are very used to very stimulating experiences, and it should be very engaging and exciting. But if you come to a typical race class, it might look, what is really going on here, right? It looks very gentle, right? You just come in and you have a sloka, then you have this, and it's a very low key type of experience. And and that's why I wanted to say unlocking learning with lying low, because it's a very lying low, it's a very gentle approach. So he'll come and do maybe a bit of the song, a bit of the sloka, a bit of the next class, he'll come and just expand a little bit on each of those, right? So it's a very, very incremental process. And you might say, oh, what's going on? Because we're just so used to being rushed, this skill, this outcome, this, and this is so gentle. You just did a bunch of things last class, and you're going to slightly expand them this class and slightly expand them the following class. And it's actually has been working for, really well for Anant. I think for the first time, he's really learning well, because that, pressure is not there. And he goes to one class with Ujjwal, and he's actually getting everything. He's getting language, he's getting value and culture exploration, he's getting movement, he's getting social interaction. So many things he's getting, just in the cognitive development, emotional expression. That's a huge one. I think people ask me, okay, why not swimming or karate or something else? I think the power of Natya is that you're pairing um, movement with expression. So if you think about it, what we are communicating, at right at this moment, I'm using, use your body, your hands, your face, everything to communicate, right? And I think that is what really Natya does, because it's showing you how to use their entire body. So even though Anant had learned a lot of things, we have done RDI, Enki, Waldorf, we have walked the walk for the last 20 years, trying all kinds of different things. No one ever really taught the emotional expression in a systematic way. And I think it automatically starts to come when you do Natya. And so if he's sitting there and making videos today, all this has gone into it. So just even, sitting straight and looking at the camera and telling the story, that is all theater training. Then he had worked with Miss Usha Shankaran, another Rasa, THD facilitator. And she really worked on prosody and slowing down the speech and clarity of speech and all of those things. And Ujjwal has done a lot of work with the motor movement and so many things. So this brings us to Dr. Ambika Kameshwar, who's the creator of Theatre Arts for Holistic Development. And what she's saying is life is theater and theater is life. So if you think about life as role play, right? All day long we are playing roles, right? I'm a parent, I'm an educator, I'm this, that, and the other, right? And what is one thing that we're doing in every role? Communicating, right? And if you think about that communication, Abhinaya talks about there are four types, which is Vachika, which is speech. Then you have the Angika, which is your body movements, and then you have Aharya, which is all your properties and costume and attire and all that. And then you have Satvika, which is emotional expression. So for those of you in the special educator, sort of hat also, you know that a lot of times as soon as diagnosis hits, you're like, oh, speech. I think we need to go to speech, right? But if you think about Natya, it's not looking at only speech because speech is only one component of communication. So when Anand is sitting and trying to make that video, it's how he sits, how he looks, how he smiles. There are just so many, so many, so many, so many layers of communication, and we are not addressing that. We're just saying, oh, he's not having speech. So relationship development intervention was good in that respect. Dr. Gutstein recognized that you needed nonverbal communication. But where I think theater arts is fantastic is they actually teach you nonverbal communication. See, I think when you have, okay, we have to do nonverbal communication, we play some games to do nonverbal communication, but that's not a systematic curriculum for nonverbal communication. But when you do theater, especially when you do something like Raise, which is a, curriculum that goes from point A to point B, every class you come, you're actually practicing all four forms of communication. So you've seen that. When he does Arunachala Shiva, he's still doing all the hand gestures with it, right? So you're having those movements, you're using the body and this expression, so even when he's doing Tattadavu, you're smiling and doing the Tattadavu, right? So if you see, all of the elements come in every little experience. And so that's why it's a very rich learning experience. And because the class looks very laid back, or you just come in, nobody's giving you 100 objectives, you might entirely miss what is going on there. There's just such a lot going on there. And the reason I wanted to connect with parents is because I think if just Anand just went for 1 hour of class, the change is not going to come. I think as a parent, I always used to come to the class with him, record what was being taught, and then I used to go and, encourage him to work. In fact, I do some of the things with him, like adavas and all I do with him. Dance and all I cannot do, but the basic steps I can do. So I do the adavas with him because it's more enjoyable for him than just looking at a screen and doing. So hastas, adavas, those kind of things I myself try with him. But I think the more, the parents are involved, the more more you'll get from the experience. So that's why I'm in the game. I want to support parents in the process. And hopefully, Vijay Lakshmi, for those of you who are working with in other arenas, this also creates a community and also a way of parents to be engaged in the process that then spills over into other, activities as well. So that's basically what I wanted to share. So if there are any questions, thoughts, comments.
Uh,
I think there's a question
Ma'am, my
on parents being allowed to attend the class. That's a great question. We actually encourage parents. It's not just are they allowed? We very much want parents to attend. So if you've seen even one class, you'll see usual style of interaction. He'll always say, Amma and Mihir, will you do this? And by inviting Amma and Mihir or Amma and somebody else, it reduces performance pressure. In some cases, only the child might do. In some cases, only the parent might do. And for all with our children, we don't know. And I feel very happy when I see Mihir because when he first started, he just would not engage. And he may be doing all kinds of things. But the invitation was there that yes, come and join. No pressure. If he's doing something, fine, you can still do it. And so that makes the parent a little bit at ease. Forget it, so a lot of
That is
times,
the positive point here,
yes.
that
And
parents are allowed
and it's a very subtle thing. See, I think one
sit
reason,
and see what is
you
going
you
on.
know, one reason I've championed Ujjwal is exactly because of this. He has some natural, he has this feel for family immersion. And so, it is not just saying, okay, like sometimes we'll say, okay, parents can sit and watch. No, no, no. It is more than that. It is not just parents can sit and watch. It is that we want parents to be part of it. And so that creates a different atmosphere. And it also reduces pressure, I think, because it's okay if my child is having a meltdown, that's fine. I can still do whatever I can.
It is really helpful for us, so that we can practice the same
Yes,
what is taught in class,
yes,
and another time when the kid is all
exactly.
ready.
Exactly. So that is our approach that,
That's the
and so
positive.
that is
Yes.
how I think Gitanjali has brought Mihir so far. She has been very diligent. She will attend every class. And the other thing, and this is what I'm trying to do through my groups and all, is you have to learn to break it down, because in a class he may do a sloka, a little bit of a hasta, an adavu, story. There may be 6 or 7 components. There's a lot in a class. So what parents have to learn to do is, let's just take one. So Anila right now is, I've been hearing, even though nobody's posting in the group, individually people are telling me what they're doing. So what Anila is doing is, there was one song, Araham Mane, there was one song, and she's not able to attend now. She was in Bangalore, but now she's in Dallas. So she was another regular one. And she's not able to attend because she's in Dallas. So she's trying to just follow along with the online resources. And that's why, Anant and I are working on this Ujjwal Natya Hub, because we want to get those resources together in a structured way so people can use it. So do follow the Ujjwal Natya Hub, because we've started daily, we edit at least one video and we are posting. So I think, saying that you don't have to do the whole class, nobody's testing you on anything. Whatever clicks, if you want to just listen to chanting, fine. You want to, take one small, so even if you take something like the tree song, as it is, he himself goes very slow. So I think this is the third week he has done the bee song, and he goes really slow, right? I mean, he'll just go word by word trying to get them to learn the actions, right? They may not learn, but if the parent learns, and so this is the difference between, you'll see videos by Anant and Ujjwal, but those are completed videos, right? You'll see the full tree song done. So you may not know how to take it step by step. But if you come to the class, I think one benefit is you see it, how it's being developed, little by little. So I think that gives a better feel for how to implement it with your child. So that's why I encourage people to attend the class, even though, we also have the completed videos that Ujjwal and Anand are doing. So that's a great point. I'm glad you asked about parent engagement. That's really the core of this whole thing. Yes.
He is remembering Arunachala Shiva on watching.
Yes. Yes. That and that's the other thing. So I think we've got sort of now 3 key sort of components. One are the 6 S's, right? Which are your soothing chants, the silence, all of these things. Those are what I call the lying low components. So if you take soothing chants, silence, self-inquiry, meditation, all these things, they're equally for parents. In fact, your child may be too young and may not be doing self-inquiry meditation. But if you know some of these 6 things, it is also helpful for us. We are on the go, we are always having some pressure or the other. So I think it has actually been very helpful for me also to be part of it. So Anant is listening to Arunachala Shiva, I am learning it too. So, now we have both started going to the Gita class together. So I think we've, slowly started doing a lot more. And this has taken 2 years, right? So this is a point I want people to understand, that when Anand started with Ujjwal in October 2022, there's no way he could have gone to a Gita class. And now he's going to a regular Gita class, both of us are attending for the last few weeks. And with the chanting and with the explanation and all. And he was sitting there and asking questions yesterday in the class. So he's, he's, really connecting to it. And it's because, of the way he has been taught. Because, he, seed by seed, right? He's talking about all these things very step by step, right? So this is the Bharatanatyam advantage, I feel, because when he's doing one adavu, he'll be planting some value or some lesson. Some other adavu, he'll be talking about why you should not have desire or something like that. Another adavu or something, he'll be some more, So like that, he's been presented very step by step. So it's a movement vocabulary, but also how to think about your life. And so because now Anant has a bunch of those things, he can actually go to the Gita class and he's making sense of that. I'm also seeing that when we started, this is another thing. I couldn't really read the Ramayana that well with him because Ramayana has so many characters and it's so complicated. He'll get distracted by all the characters and things. But because of the Ramana stories are much simpler. You just have a lot of them, the early animal stories, Ramana, animal, some other devotees. So characters are very little. The values he kept tuning into the values. So now when we read Ramayana, it's amazing how he picks up. I mean, he's not distracted by the details, and he's very tuned into the message of the story. And Bharat is like this, and this person is like this. He's really tuning into that. So I think we have been long enough in this program, and we didn't enter saying we are entering the race program. So it's really an interesting journey because Anant was a Bharatanatyam dancer. He had finished his Arangetram in 2020. So he came to Ujjwal as a dance student. And, I don't know how much dance he has learned, but he has learned a whole lot of other things by being with Ujjwal. And so, now we're hoping to take it to more people. So we are very passionately committed to this program because I think we have seen wonderful results with it. So any other questions, comments? I'm glad you again, you brought up about parent. I think that's one message I wish people will take away. And that lying low, again, since you brought up parent participation, that lying low is very much important for parents, because if we are all high strung and pushing our kids and, it doesn't work. So just by watching, how laid back, how Ujjwal does it, it has an effect on parents also, right? Because you start to develop that style a little bit, instead of always, because that's not, most other therapies and approaches, they always have an agenda, right? Because, if you go to say RDI or any other therapy, we are paying a lot of money by hour and so on, right? So it's like, what's the outcome? What are we going to achieve by next month? So it's always a little bit of that pressure is there.
They won't allow parents there.
They won't allow parents, or if they allow parents, they put pressure on the parents also. Okay,
Yeah,
do this and do
that's
a
there.
video and let us see how you're doing, right? So this
Yeah.
lying low, we don't really see it. So, okay, one, Vijayalakshmi, you had some comment? I didn't see this. Okay, that sounds good. I think it's good for yeah. I think it'll be good. And then if you learn some Bharatanatyam, and I think you also do the race class, and we want to. So that is one of the questions I had for parents. My gut feeling is we should include the little bit of the Adavas and Hastas, the way race does it, because in the traditional Bharatanatyam curriculum, you may just learn the Adava movement. You may learn the movement very well, but you're not learning the other things with it because they wait later. So, that's one question I had for parents. Anybody has any thoughts? I think in the race family immersion, including Hastas and Adavas and some Vedas is good. So that's my perspective. And if you all have any feedback, please let me know on that. So it's good that you're trying to learn Bharatanatyam. So I don't know how many other things you're going to do, Vijayalakshmi.
No, ma'am, I tried to learn more. I was very much attracted by your son's, old videos and all those things. Why we can't learn and teach our son to? Because everything, no one accept our sons easily. As a mother, we can learn. Even
Yes,
they want
yes,
swimming, we can also learn swimming.
yes.
So
And actually, that's a
it's
good
my
point.
childhood dream to learn Bharatanatyam.
And
But my parents not allowing me
we
that
have
time.
we have less than a minute, and I want to do a